What's up guys? Today we're going to be going over the inventory limits. I know this is on a lot of your minds. What's happening with the IPI score change? What's happening with the 200 unit inventory limit? So I'm going to be breaking down exactly what these inventory limits are, how you can check what limit you have for your products, and then I'm going to go over potential workarounds that you can begin using to overcome this, perhaps even use this as an opportunity. Something else we will discuss as we go through this is prep centers, and you don't have to use them, but at the end of the video I'm going to give you some optional prep centers, so make sure you watch this video through. So the big points: number one is the ASIN level quantity limits, and for brand new products without sales history, that limit is now set at 200 units, both for how much you can have in current inventory or how much you can send in at any point. And the second big point is the new minimum IPI score, which is your inventory performance index score, and that is now raised to 500. So you have to have an IPI above 500 or you're going to face inventory restrictions after August 16th of 2020. So why is Amazon doing this? Well, there are really three reasons I could pull out of their announcement on this. Number one was to reduce wasted storage space. Number two was to increase variety. In other words, customer selection of items during Q4. There's more different items rather than fewer with a lot of inventory. And number three is really just to boost capacity, and this is something we might see going forward. They're looking to try have stock for 3 months for each ASIN, no more than 3 months of stock. So that's really their aim with this. And in terms of what they've done, it kind of makes sense because a brand new offering, they don't know how much you're going to need for 3 months. So 200's their kind of guesstimate. So how do I check how much I can send? Well, for existing and brand new ASINs, follow this procedure. You're going to go to inventory at the top of Seller Central, manage inventory, then you're going to click on inventory dashboard at the top, as you can see here, and you're now on the main dashboard. And this is the place where you're also going to be able to see your IPI score. So if you're worried about that, want to improve and monitor that, here's where you can find that. And from here, you now want to click on restock inventory at the top. You're now on the restock inventory page, and this is where we can work out all of our inventory limits. Once on this page, you're going to click this little arrow drop down. You can see this little blue number of units here. It's 0 on this item, as if it were a brand new item. You're going to click on that, and it's going to display some really important information. The first key point of info here is the maximum shipment quantity. That is what you're able to send into the warehouse right now. You may not send any more units than that for this ASIN, and it's going to be limited to that in the shipping plan. The second piece of info here is the maximum inventory level allowed, or in other words, the maximum inventory quantity. And this is what you're allowed to have in Amazon's warehouse at any given point until they raise this limit for you. So your maximum shipment quantity is obviously crucial for immediate shipping plans and what you can send currently. But then the maximum inventory quantity becomes more important, because now that's going to help you establish when to reorder and how much you can actually send into Amazon on the reorder. So let's say you have a limit of 200 to have in current inventory, but you currently have 50 units in inventory. That means you can only send in 150 units, because that's going to top you out to the 200 limit you have. But as you sell more, both these limits should start to increase, because remember, Amazon's trying to optimize for that 3 months if we assume that from their announcement. One thing that doesn't have a limit though is the like button, and you should press it right now. So in all seriousness, what can we do? And I want to outline a couple strategies you can use, and it's really going to come together in 3 options you're going to have. But let me tell you why I think this actually represents an opportunity. And I'm going to ask you a couple questions on this first. Number one, why are you doing this? Probably to turn a profit. And the second question is, what does this relate to? What does this whole announcement relate to? And that is quantity, and quantity alone. Question 3, which products generally make more profit? And as we've covered here a lot, that's higher priced items. Question 4, What's the biggest issue when you do sell a higher priced item? It costs too much to order large quantities. It costs me too much to order 1,000 or even 500. Question 5, what's the second biggest issue with higher priced items? Most would say that they sell a bit slower, which is not always the case, but let's say it is. So putting all of that together, one approach here is to follow the higher price strategy we've gone through multiple times. I'm going to link the video right up here for you if you haven't seen that yet. This is something a lot of Amazon sellers are not doing. They go for the general range, $15, $25, but you can break that mold, find far less competition, but most importantly, you're going to be able to leverage exactly what's going on right now to your advantage, because naturally with a higher priced item, this is what you would do. You would do a lower quantity because it makes sense in terms of finances. Now, this approach to the change is really for those of you focused on FBA. You don't want to go FBM, you want to focus primarily FBA, although you could mix in FBM as well. But I know some of you just want to focus FBA, and this is the way I would tackle this problem. And the reasons why this is the best strategy for FBA currently for new offerings with a 200 limit is like sixfold. Number one, your higher profit per unit is going to offset your higher shipping cost when you ship lower quantities of goods. Number two, your higher profit per unit is also going to offset the additional costs of using a third-party prep center if you choose to do so. And thirdly, you're being forced to have less inventory anyway. So if fewer, more expensive items get you to the same goal as more, less expensive items, then this makes sense. Fourthly, as we've always touched on, higher price items have less competition on Amazon. And fifth, this is a way to reduce risk in all cases. See this as a testing phase. Let's go with 200 units or even 400, so we have some on the side, but we're testing. We're not going all in. We're not betting the farm on 2,000 units on the first order, which in my opinion is often one of the least recoverable mistakes that new sellers make. They choose the wrong product, but they go with too much quantity. That's actually the problem, not choosing the wrong product. You can learn from that and adjust. But if you have too many units, that's what causes the major problem and the actual loss. So if you want to follow this doing FBA alone, here are 10 steps to do so. Number one, you spend the same amount as you would have spent on a higher quantity of less expensive items, but you spend it on higher cost items in the quantity of 400, because those more expensive cost items are going to allow you to sell for a premium price. Number two, you're then going to ship these items, and you have two options here. Number one is you ship 200 units to Amazon and you ship 200 units to your house if you live in that Amazon marketplace country. The second option here is you ship 200 to Amazon and you ship the other 200 to a prep center located in that Amazon marketplace country. Step 3, the first 50 units is really just to get that listing moving and off the ground and get some reviews coming in. So now you're sitting at 150 units. Step 4, if you sell quite a few units per day, let's say you're selling more than 5 units a day, then at the level you get to 100 units, you now know you've got about 20 days left in stock. You're now going to send in another 100 units of that sideline stock to max out your 200. If your inventory limit has gone up by this time because you've made some sales, you can send in more. And step 5, now before that inventory actually gets to the warehouse, you've sold some more of the 100 that were there. So let's say that's down to 50. Your next 100 arrives, so you have 150 in the warehouse now, and you have 100 on the sidelines, either at your house or your prep center. Step 6, if sales continue, you've now reduced your risk. You know this sells. And so at this point is when you're going to reorder another 400 from the supplier. And step 7, as you hit 100 units left in inventory, you're now going to send your last remaining 100 units into the warehouse. Step 8, that arrives at the warehouse after you've sold a bit more of the current units, and therefore you're sitting at about 150 units in the warehouse. Step 9, at the point where your manufacturer completes the manufacturing of the 400 units we ordered, you're probably at about 50 units left in inventory. You might even be below that. You might even run out of stock for a little bit. But at this point, you want to send the maximum you can to the warehouse. Remember, that could well have increased at this point because you're making sales, and Amazon wants to allow you to have 3 months of stock. So you're going to send between 150 and maybe 300 units directly to the warehouse. The remainder is going to go to your sideline setup, your house or your prep center. And step 10 is to simply repeat. As you sell more, your inventory limit is going to increase, and you're going to be able to send more and more in as you work back to our more normal numbers of 500 or 1,000. And the second big approach here is FBM. Now, FBM stands for Fulfilled by Merchant. It's also known as Fulfilled by Me, to keep it simple. But Fulfilled by Merchant should not be underrated. This is a very strong model. It takes more of your time, but a lot of people actually enjoy the hands-on process of actually having your products, packaging them, sending them to customers, while others really don't like that and stick to FBA. Now, FBM is of course much easier for those who live in their Amazon Marketplace country. However, you can also use a prep center to run FBM for you. So even if you live abroad, you can still run FBM by using a prep center. So what is FBM? Well, really, this is when you sell an item from your Amazon listing. Okay, your Amazon listing has an FBM option and people purchase from there, but your inventory is kept somewhere else other than Amazon. It's kept at your house or a prep center, and it ships to the customer from there. Now, of course, because the stock is kept elsewhere, the inventory limit does not apply at all to FBM, and you can have as many units as you want at your house or warehouse or prep center. It's also used very well by sellers in general to avoid out of stock situations. They always have a bit of standby FBM inventory to catch up if their FBA inventory runs out. And in this situation, as you can see, you're going to have to manage inventory really carefully. This could be a great sideline option to have to avoid those out of stock situations. So how do I get an FBM option on my listing? Well, FBM and FBA are really just fulfillment methods from your ASIN, from your listing, and you can have both of them on one ASIN, on one listing. And this is how you can do it. You're going to want to navigate to your FBA listing in Manage Inventory. Then you're going to click that Edit drop down, and you're going to click on Copy Listing. This actually makes a duplicate of the FBA listing. And at this point, what you want to do is on the one duplicate, you're going to want to click on the Edit drop down, and you're going to change to Fulfilled by Merchant. You're now converting that FBA listing into an FBM listing. At the same time, what you've essentially done is created 2 SKUs, 2 stock keeping units, because remember, you need one stock keeping unit to say how much stock is here at FBA, and you need another stock keeping unit to say how much stock is here at my house or prep center. So you have 2 SKUs for one ASIN, one listing. Now, one easy way to tell the difference here is on FBA, you're never going to be able to input the units yourself. So you know that is my FBA listing. On FBM, you can actually input how many you have at your house or prep center or warehouse. And so that's just an easy, quick way to know the difference. So now that you have FBM on the listing, customers can actually purchase your product through that option. And if they do purchase from you, you have 2 options. 1, you personally ship out that inventory to the customer, or 2, you have a prep center ship out that order to the customer. So if you're using a third-party prep center, then sometimes it can actually be automated if they have access to your account. In other cases, you're just going to need to drop in the order details from Seller Central into your third-party prep website, and then they are going to fulfill that order for you. If you're doing FBM yourself, there's a couple things you're going to want to know. To keep this part simple, I'm going to assume you have some inventory at your house. Let's say you have 200 units at your house and someone buys from you FBM. What's going to happen is you now need to get that product to that customer, and you need to use a carrier to do that. USPS is very good for the US, while Royal Mail is also a common option in the UK. And each system really just has their own options and requirements, so you can check them out for yourself. But for example, in the US, the USPS has the USPS flat rate, which is a good way to ship. It needs specific packaging, but you can get that packaging for free from your nearest post office or even get it delivered to you, and then you use that to pack the product so it's ready to go. Royal Mail has their own guidelines, so if you can fit it in an envelope, that's probably going to be cheaper than in a little box, etc. So you're going to need to look into that for your product. And then all these options have like first class, which is the fastest shipping speed, and second class, which is the next speed. Usually first class is going to coincide with like your 2-day shipping, whereas second class is often going to be 3 to 5 day shipping and is more like standard shipping. So in some of these cases, you will need to get your own packing material, which might be boxes or envelopes or stick-on labels, etc. And something that's 100% required for this is a printer. You need a good printer to print these labels and put it onto that packaging before it ships. So on your listing, your FBM option is going to specify a shipping time. It's going to tell the customer it arrives within 2 days or within 5 days. Is it 2-day shipping or standard shipping, etc., and a rate. So you have to set all of this up, and you want to deliver on time. Remember, this is Amazon. So how do you set all of this up? Well, you can actually set up the shipping options in Seller Central. You're simply going to click on settings at the top right and then shipping settings. Remember, this only relates to FBM. Then under general shipping settings at the top, you want to set your handling time to 1 to 2 days. Now this has nothing to do with the transit of getting the product to the customer. This is how long it takes you from when the order comes in to you processing that order and having that product ready to ship and handing it over to the carrier. That is your handling time. Now good FBM sellers do the same day. The order comes in and they are literally ready to hand that over to the carrier the same day, or at the very least the next day. And so a handling time of 1 to 2 days is probably the best here. And a quick note here, if you do a lot of FBM or you plan to go full into this model, you can also apply for Seller Fulfilled Prime, which means you can ship FBM, but you can also get the Prime badge on your listings. So moving on here, you want to click on Shipping Templates at the top. Then click on Edit at the top right. And remember, you're paying to ship these products to the customer, and so you need to pass along that cost to the customer in a fashion that you have represented on the listing. And this is actually where you set all of this up. The first thing you want to do is select a transit time you can actually achieve. So whatever you put in here has to match what your carrier can do. So for example, if we're doing Royal Mail first class, then we can confidently put in a transit time here of 2 to 3 days, because it's very likely to have arrived by 3 days time. But you can also see there are different regions here. And so what we've done is we've put in 2 to 3 days for our main areas where we know we can deliver to in that time. And then for the outlying areas, we've put a transit time of 3 to 5 days. So you want to do this by checking your regions and your carrier and the options you have selected there in terms of cost. Now at the very top here, you can see that you can choose to do this per item or weight based, or you can do something called price banded. Now one just easy approach to do here, especially if you're new or you don't have many products, then what you can do is use price banded. And then for each region, what you're going to do is set the first band, as you can see here, from 0 to just above the price of one of your products. So if you sell a product for $29, then you could set the first band from $0 to $30. And then what you're going to do is set the second band to $30.01 to above. You can also put a maximum on that. I'll touch on that later, but $30 to above. And what you're essentially setting by doing this is if you purchase one product, you pay this amount. If you purchase more than one product, you pay this amount. So with your product shipping weight on hand, you want to head over to your carrier's website and check the rates for that weight in accordance with the speed that you're going to offer customers. So here we're going for a max of 2 to 3 day shipping. And so we're going to be using Royal Mail First Class in the UK to meet that promise. Our product weighs 0.9 kilograms or 900 grams. And so when we ship 1 unit with Royal Mail First Class, it's going to cost us £3.70. Therefore, in price band 1, remember if they purchase 1 product from us, that is going to cost the customer £3.70. And we're going to input that there for that price band. Now, if we ship 2 units, it's going to be 1.8 kilograms, 1800 grams. And with Royal Mail First Class, that's going to cost us £5.57. And so we're going to put in £5.60 just to round it off. And we're going to put that into price band 2. So if a customer buys 1 product from us, they're going to pay us £3.70. But if a customer buys more than 1 product from us, they're going to pay us £5.60. Now, it does introduce one issue, and that's if you're in a niche, like maybe a business niche where people buy a lot of products in one order. That's going to create an issue here. And so then what you can do is set a max order quantity in effect by having a maximum in your second price band. In other words, it can't go up to just above there. You actually set a band there. So you could set it at say $60 in this instance or this example, and in that way we're limiting them to 2. But another option, and probably a preferable option if you do have large single order quantities, is to actually use the per item system or the weight based system, which you can find at the top. Now, I know I spoke a lot on Royal Mail, but if you are using USPS in the US, then you could set this time to 2 to 4 days, specifically if you're doing first class with USPS. So your transit time will be 2 to 4 days. Otherwise, you can do 3 to 5 days. And again, I would keep the handling time to 1 day. And once you've set all of that up, be sure to click save at the bottom. So what happens when a customer actually buys from me? When they do buy from you, you're going to see an order in open orders at the top of Seller Central. And now you need to fulfill that order. So you're going to click on orders and then manage orders. Then find that order you want to ship and you want to click on buy shipping. Then just going to check all that information's accurate and confirm, and then you want to print the label. Now, if you follow this approach, you're essentially buying the shipping through Amazon, which is a really efficient way of doing this. Now, the reason I recommend buying shipping through Amazon is simply because it automatically confirms that order, but also it sends that customer the tracking number automatically as well. Now, if you don't buy shipping through Amazon specifically, then what you're going to want to do is from that carrier, you need to get the tracking number from them. It's really important. You'll notice tracking numbers are probably the biggest gripe with FBM because you need to fill that in on Amazon. Another thing with FBM is you want to have clear return instructions included in the package with a valid return address so that customer can actually return that product to you. And remember, returns are not optional. This is Amazon. So if a customer wants to return it, you have to accept that return. And of course, you're not using FBA, so you have to handle all of your returns. And lastly is prep centers as promised. So what if I don't want to, or I simply cannot hold inventory at home and I want to use a prep center? What are some good options? Well, here are a couple options for the US. All of this will be linked below as well for you. Number 1 is My Prep Center. Number 2 is eFulfillment Pro. And number 3 is FBA Indiana Prep. I'm also going to link an article there where you can see a ton more by location. Say you want one really close to your actual home, you can find it there by location. And here are some prep centers for the UK. Number 1 is Direct to EU. Number 2 is We Prep FBA. And number 3 is Easy Prep UK. So you now have 3 workarounds for the inventory limit. Number 1 is go with fewer premium price products. Number 2 is move to FBM and focus on that. And number 3 is a mix. Use both FBA and FBM during this period. And lastly, guys, I have done FBM myself, but this is not my current focus. My current focus is FBA. So I am going to link some articles below if you really want to look more into FBM yourself. One is from Helium 10 and one is from The Selling Family. And both those resources also helped me put this together for for you. So check them out below. And if this video did help you, please do smash that like button for me. Remember, subscribe below if you don't want to miss future content. Comment below for me, how are you approaching this situation? And guys, I hope this does help you. I know this is a bit of a pain point. I know Amazon throws a spanner in the works every now and then, but this could be a really good opportunity because I think it's going to scare off a lot of new sellers. And that could leave some blue ocean niches there for your taking. Hope you guys are all doing very well, and I will see you in the next video.